If you walk through Cal's campus today, you might forget that it's actually finals week. At this time of year, you would expect to see students rushing to review sessions, crowding around libraries to study for exams, or waiting in line for their caffeine fix at GBC. Instead, students are sitting in Zoom waiting rooms for last-minute office hours, logging into virtual study groups, and making coffee in their Keurigs at home. The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the most impactful events of the 21st century thus far, leaving many unemployed, forced into their homes, or in the case of 219,000 Americans, dead. The current situation feels hopeless and unprecedented for many, especially students. This is not the first time Berkeley has faced a pandemic that closed campus operations. In 1918, a militarized UC Berkeley dealt with the emergence of the Spanish flu into the American public. A look back at the 1920 edition of the Blue Gold Yearbook shows that the campus, which was being utilized as an Army development and training center, hosted soldiers returning from Europe who carried and spread the disease. The initial cases in Berkeley were reported on October 6, 1917, with an eventual estimate of 1,500 cases on campus. In nearby San Francisco, early statistics reported 169 confirmed cases and rose to 2,000 cases within 1 week. A quote from the yearbook reveals, "The fall semester was a short one, being under 12 weeks in length. The serious epidemic of Spanish influenza, which was at its height in October, necessitated precautions which resulted in a lessening of rapidly forming plans for a bigger training center." Of the 1,500 total cases that were reported in Berkeley between 1917 and 1918, the majority of those infected were men. 2 Army barracks were turned into emergency hospitals, and men were held in quarantine for nearly 4 weeks. To combat the spread of the virus, Berkeley women sewed and handed out upwards of 25,000 masks. The 1920 yearbook noted that due to quick response and medical work, there were very few casualties, even though it was estimated that close to 75% of the men were ill at one time or another. The public health impact continued on throughout the academic year as campus operations were once again impeded with another wave of infections in the spring semester. The opening of the spring semester was delayed 2 weeks by a recurrence of the influenza epidemic, with registration day being January 20th, 1919. The spring semester was 19 weeks in length, this being necessary as a balance to the short fall semester. Altogether, the Spanish flu claimed nearly 7,000 lives in California and left a death toll of 7 on our campus. Today, COVID-19, much like the Spanish flu a century ago, has altered life as we know it. With over 10 million confirmed cases in the United States alone, the coronavirus has had an especially unprecedented impact on college students. 261 of the confirmed COVID-19 cases in the city of Berkeley are UC Berkeley students. In addition, a study by the California Student Aid Commission and UC Davis found that a quarter of students across California dropped at least one course during the spring 2020 semester due to COVID-19. A likely contributor to these course drops is the increased stress from losing income and housing. The pandemic resulted in over 70% of students experiencing a loss in income and nearly 50% of students affected in their housing arrangements. UC Berkeley experienced an increase in cases in the late summer when students began to move back into off-campus residences and interact in closer proximity with each other. However, on-campus numbers remain low relative to the influenza outbreak of the 1910s, which can be attributed to better medical technology and testing services, a 21st century ability to host virtual classes, and a relatively stringent university response. How have UC Berkeley students responded to the current pandemic? In the 2020 edition of the Blue and Gold Yearbook, students revealed concerns with the transition to virtual learning through Zoom, as well as the well-being of those around them. It is hard to sit down and complete assignments as well as study when your mind is concerned for the health and well-being of yourself and others, said freshman Stephanie Ma. Yet like the eventual return to normalcy after the 1918 influenza outbreak, we have hope for the future. While the past few months have been extremely challenging, the pandemic has also provided a valuable opportunity for students to re-evaluate and appreciate their non-traditional college experience. In the absence of in-person gatherings and social activities, many fellow Golden Bears have taken to rekindling old passions and hobbies, spending more time with family, and reflecting on what they find most meaningful in life. A quote from junior Anjika Pai in the 2020 Blue and Gold Yearbook reads, "My quarantine life has taught me to appreciate the little things. I find joy in seeing my neighbor's dog's antics in the backyard, in my mother's new pasta recipe, and in children's chalk art on driveways. While transitioning to online classes has been incredibly difficult, I am happy to find time to fall in love with my idle town again. Despite the struggles of life in a deadly pandemic, quarantine has provided innovative new ways for us to reconnect with each other and with the world. As we move forward, we remember and maintain the unfailing perseverance and resilience of golden bears, past and present.